how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thank you for listening to episode 35 of Hey Human Podcast. On this episode, I speak with Talha Haseen. He was born in Pakistan, and he and his family immigrated to the United States when he was 9 years old. And he is a practicing Muslim. He's a graduate of Vanderbilt University. He's a cool cat. And we talked about all sorts of things, religion and philosophy and science, and we just talk about stuff, all the stuff that new friends talk about when they're getting to know each other. The world feels really large sometimes, and then at times it feels real tiny. And when you're talking to a new friend who may seem like they are a million miles, a million philosophies, whatever, different than you, and you realize that you're actually exactly the same. You know, you get up, you go to work, you love your family, you have your dinner. It's great. There's so much more sameness than there is differentness, at least in my opinion. I feel like the luckiest person in this room that I'm in right now. I don't know if I'm the luckiest person in the world, but I feel really lucky. I get to talk to the coolest people and the weirdest people and the most interesting people and the most bizarre, and it's all so good. I just love it. I hope you love it too. Please check out heyhumanpodcast.com online. That's the website. I've got links up there and all sorts of information and things and stuffs. And I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook under Hey Human Podcast. You can email me, Susan at heyhumanpodcast.com. Reach out, say hello. Maybe you know somebody that you think would be cool to have on the show. Or maybe you'd be cool to have on the show. I don't know. Let me know. And what else? Please rate and review on iTunes. That's a really great thing. It helps to get the word out. I know I repeat myself every time in every episode, so if you've heard this a million times before, you can skip over. You hit that little 10-second forward button on your phone or whatever, and zip right past all this junk. But this junk's important for me because I want to get the word out. So please share and subscribe on iTunes. I'm on Podbean. I'm on Blueberry, and there's another app that somebody just told me about that I'd never heard of. I'm going to have to look it up. And so I don't know why I'm even telling you because I don't know the name. But Switzer, something with a sw sound, like Swizzler, only different, not Twizzler. It's not a licorice app. Anyway, it's out there. It's out there in the world. Please share it. Tell your friends. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Let's jump on in. Here we go. Talha Haseen, I'm so excited I got your name right on the first try.
Yeah, that was impressive and nice.
Talha, thank you for being on Hey Human. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and we met via my friend David.
Yeah. Cool guy, actually. Yeah. I met him for the first time, along with Rashid. Went to this neighborhood association meeting on 12 South, and he was there. And then he mentioned your name. He's like, I'm going to forward your stuff. I was like, all right, go
He's
for
been
it.
Great. He's introduced me to some really cool people for the podcast, and it's great. He's lovely. You are 19?
I am 20. You guess. Keep guessing.
Okay, I'm going to guess. All right. 22.
No.
How old are you?
25.
25?
Yeah.
He said 19. He doesn't know. Nobody ever
What?
knows.
He said 19?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's...
I think he was
I guess
guessing.
that's good, yeah.
Yeah, I think he was guessing. So, and he's known you for a while, I guess.
David?
Not long enough to know. No.
No, that was when I met him.
Oh.
He knew maybe Rashid.
Maybe I'm
for
getting...
a little longer.
Well, you know what? He texted me about 5 different names all in the same day.
Oh, okay.
And said, I know this person this way, and I probably jumbled them all up in my head.
Yeah, that's
so,
fine.
yeah. Okay, so you just met him.
Yeah, I met him that weekend. We exchanged numbers and kind of became friends.
Okay. Yeah. And so, 25, you're from Nashville.
I am from Nashville, yeah. Not born here, but pretty much raised here. Yeah.
Where are you born?
I was born in Islamabad, Pakistan.
Oh, easy for you to say.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're Muslim?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, how old are you when you came here?
I moved here when I was 9, I think. 9 and a half. Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
What brought you guys here?
We initially, honestly, came here on like a little vacation thing. I think it was honestly luck, just because of the visa processing and all that stuff. But we came here for a while because I have some family here on my dad's side.
Okay.
And we visited them, and then my parents actually lost their jobs overseas, and they were like...
In Pakistan?
Yeah,
okay.
based on the company.
What were they doing there?
They worked in sales for the airline.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. And then at least whatever department they worked for actually became consolidated. That stuff is like hazy. I remember moving like 4 different times. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But then we were like kind of lucked out and kind of got to stay here once all the paperwork and stuff passed through.
It was a lot easier back then probably than it is now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, now it's probably, especially from... quote-unquote terrorist countries.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Actually, the first couple of years, I would say, when we first moved, was the most, like, fun, easy, like, you don't worry about anything.
What year was that?
99 or 2000.
Okay, so it was pre-9/11.
Right, like right before.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
okay.
right before, yeah.
So pre-9/11, everyone was happy with everyone.
Yeah.
Basically, it was like,
exactly.
oh yeah, perfect, no problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So did 9/11 affect you as a Muslim American? I mean, I'm...
Absolutely,
and you have dark skin, you have dark hair, you look like somebody else from somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. No, it absolutely did.
Yeah.
I remember being a kid and like 6th graders are not friendly. I mean, they're not mean.
Nice
They're
anyway.
mean. Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm a white kid and the 6th graders in my class were mean. So
exactly.
What kind of was your experience?
Well, after 9/11, like slowly building up through news and media and whatnot, like kids would just automatically assume, like if you're not, if you have a different name and you're like, you look like you're from either the Middle East, you're just not, they don't really know where you're from. I would get 2 things: either I was Hispanic or I was like somewhere from over there.
I could see Hispanic.
Yeah, so that was interesting actually. I would get people like in international markets just come up to me and talk to me in Spanish. It was awful because I was taking Spanish and I took it for 5 years, but I never became fluent enough to actually talk back with them.
Languages are hard.
Yeah. But yeah, they would like assume it was just like stereotyping essentially, and that's like as a kid I was like that sucks, like like why do these they don't even actually know you or know me, and I think a lot of young Muslim Americans like experience that after 9/11. But as you grow older, you kind of just realize like that's not really coming from their heart. It's just kind of that's what they see and that's what they associate. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's what they associate, right? If they don't know better, like a 6th grader is not going to do their research.
No.
So you kind of just grow to live with it for a little while, and then you kind of just grow out of it. You're like, you know what? That's people.
Did they grow out of it? Because I assume you stayed in pretty much, you fall in.
Yeah.
At that age, you kind of go through the years with the same kids, unless you move again.
Well, yeah. I moved schools. A couple, not because of that. Just generally going to a different high school and whatnot.
Yeah.
They do, but they also don't. Like there's like less people overall, but like, it's just a societal thing. I don't think it's something that overall everyone is like on the same page with.
Yeah.
Some people are educated enough to know the difference, that is, and some people are in the middle, and some people just are not.
Yeah.
And I think that depends on your exposure to whoever the type of person that you seem to like almost intuitively stereotype.
Yeah. Did you fly at all, like right after your family at all, after 9/11? Were you?
Yeah, we visited back home.
How did that go?
I think it was fine. There was no issues with that. Yeah,
really?
For me personally. Yeah.
I flew in October, right after. And I remember being on the plane, and I remember the tension on the plane was so intense.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was in October, right? It
was right after. Okay,
just a couple weeks later, and there was a Sikh man on the plane, and of course, most people don't know the difference between a Sikh and a Muslim, and or any. These people just don't know.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah.
But I could tell Sikh,
Yeah.
the whole thing, and what is that called? The headdress.
Turban, I guess.
Well, yeah, but there's a name for it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's to them, I suppose. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway, and the death stares this poor man was getting on this plane, and I was just, oh God, he was sitting so that I could see him cat a corner.
Yeah.
And I just reached out the aisle and I touched his arm, and I was like, it's gonna be okay. And I just thought, if I'm stressed out on this flight and all these people are like, imagine how that poor guy is feeling right now, because everyone's just looking at him like, are you gonna blow up? Is there a bomb in your hat? Because people are ignorant and they're afraid, and fear unfortunately creates more ignorance. So because people tend to go with the zeitgeist of fear instead of calming down and going, okay, now what's reality? Yeah. Is
this a reasonable fear? That type of thing. Yeah.
Most fears aren't reasonable, are they?
Well, no, I guess not.
No. Yeah. And I get that people are afraid in general. I mean, we're taught to be afraid on so many levels. We're taught that we're not pretty enough, we're not smart enough, we're not rich enough, we're not, our brothers aren't, and our sisters are trying to kill us, or, whatever it is. It sells a lot of products, and it allows us to be manipulated. It sells movies, it sells everything. Yeah. So, makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think it's easier to be afraid than to be not afraid.
It is, I think. Yeah. It takes a little more work to not be afraid.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah, I agree. So, get to high school.
Yeah, so get to high school.
People more open or less, or?
I would say generally more. Oh, generally more. But there's always a small group that isn't. But generally a lot more, yeah. So that was a lot nicer. So I actually went to Hillsborough High School.
Oh,
in Green
okay.
Hills, yeah.
Some of my friends' kids go there.
Yeah, it was a great place to go. They had this IB program, I think they still have it, where you're basically, it's like a little advanced placement type of thing, but it's like a group of people that you stay with for your last 2 years of high school. Oh. So all your classes are with them pretty much.
Oh, that's nice.
So you're basically just with the same people for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so once I started that, it was just like completely gone.
So you were a Pakistani kid in an AP class. That's not stereotypical.
Exactly, right? Yeah. But I think, honestly, having that same group of people and slowly getting to know them really, really well, just because you spend, 6 hours a day with them for 5 days a week, that opened up a lot more, like, conversations and easily, like, getting to know people and just really understanding you is more than just, like, that guy that sits behind me in class.
Yeah.
Or that,
Yeah, sure. So, okay, did you go to college?
I did, yeah. I met a Vandy, actually, here.
Are you there now?
Here. No, I finished.
Oh, you finished?
Yeah, 2.5 years ago, yeah.
Ah, congratulations. What did you study?
Thank you. Chemical engineering.
Ah.
Yeah, that was...
It's like a lot of math.
It was, and a lot of chemistry.
Yeah.
Honestly, that alone is a story. Stumbled into it, huh?
How so?
Oh, I went into college like not knowing what to do, so I was like, I'm brown. I need to be a doctor or an engineer.
Oh,
so
is it initially, really? I mean,
that is
pressure?
Totally a stereotype.
All right, so talk about that a little bit.
So that's actually very interesting. I'm not really sure exactly how that came about, but like if you talk about to the millennial generation's parents, that is the epitome of success for a vast majority. Honestly, if you're an immigrant, like Indians, Pakistanis, if you're from Iraq, even Iran, if you're an immigrant in the U.S., like those two things specifically are like hallmarks.
Interesting.
To go to,
chemistry or doctor.
Huh? Yeah. You're either going to be an engineer or you're going to be a doctor.
Sorry. Engineer or doctor. Yeah,
exactly. And I was actually thinking about that and talking to my sister about it the other day, and we were like, why is that? Why in the world, like, is this, like, since I was little, I remember wanting to be a doctor and have no idea why.
Yeah.
I didn't know any doctors personally growing up.
So culturally, that's what everybody in your family gears toward, or although your parents were in sales, so
they weren't doctors or engineers. So that's why I was like, where's this coming from?
But that's a parental thing of wanting the next generation to do better, bigger,
right?
And all that kind of stuff. So
that
makes sense.
Yeah, that does completely make sense. So I was thinking, like, from my parents' perspectives, like growing up, that was probably who they saw as very successful, and they're like, well, that's what I want for my kid.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I mean, who wouldn't?
So were you practicing in your religion?
Yeah.
Growing up? Okay.
Yeah.
And did you do the prayer 5 times a day and
all
that?
Yeah.
How do you manage to do that when you're in high school? That must have raised some eyebrows.
Well, yeah, so the one in the morning is like usually way before school starts, like,
it's like 5 a.m.
Before sunrise.
Yeah.
So you're good on that. The one during the weekday, like, usually I personally would just do it later, like past time. Like, a lot of people actually just go and like step out and do it, which I did in college. But in high school I would just like wait until the day was over and make those up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we have a regulatory or a required one on Fridays. So that one we would just leave school for.
Okay.
And school and like teachers and everyone was totally fine with that.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. I feel like I got like the really nice end of the stick of being Muslim American in Nashville, because it was not as hard as it is for a lot of other people. The stories that I hear,
Yeah.
So
Nashville's pretty progressive, I feel like.
It is, yeah.
I mean, saying that as a white girl. Oh yeah, it's super progressive. It's fine.
No, it is though. It actually is.
Yeah.
I felt I did as a kid in like 6th grade. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm.
That's
weird,
when kids
like,
start to notice the difference in each other.
Exactly.
I feel like.
Yeah, but outside of that, and especially as an adult, I don't really feel any strong like opposition against me personally.
Have you, when you've traveled and throughout the U.S., have you gone anywhere where it's been an issue? Or I'm not trying to like goad you into having issue. I'm just curious.
No. Yeah, I understand. No, I personally, if there has been, I didn't notice.
That's good.
Yeah, so that's why I say I think I really got the good end of the stick on that side.
Yeah. Maybe it's because you look more Mexican. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. That's why.
You just like, go build a wall somewhere. That's it.
Exactly, yeah. I'm working real hard to pay for it, guys. I'm working real hard to pay for it. Yeah.
So you get through college, and that's fine. Now what are you doing now?
So I work for a consulting firm based out of here in Nashville. So we do environmental consulting. Mm-hmm. So helping companies basically figure out what it is that they need to do, that they're legally required to do, and then how do they actually do it. So that's one aspect, and the other aspect is how do companies like reduce their footprint as far as like like this table or any product that they create or manufacture or a car.
Yeah.
Like how can we reduce our energy that we're using?
Sure.
And the reason they're doing it is somewhat green driven, but also money driven, because they spend
also
a lot
green.
of also green,
the green money kind.
Exactly. So their backing is twofold. So they're like, we want to reduce actual electricity use because it costs money.
Yeah.
And when you're talking like manufacturing scale, it's a lot of money.
Do you travel much for your job?
Yeah, I've been traveling less actually recently, but which has been super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say coming out of college, that was like the one thing I was like, I want to travel. I want to go see the rest of the U.S. I've been in Nashville my whole life.
Yeah.
I did do that for a little while, like at least in the Southeast, and but came back and have not been doing that. That was one project that required much. But now it's been really nice to actually like not have to travel every week.
What does your sister study?
She's in med school right now. So she took that route.
She succumbed to that.
Well, I guess I did too. I'm an engineer.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So.
Yeah. I know you can't speak for her, but do you think being a female Muslim has she had any kind of, has it been the same for her as it is for you, like pretty easy? And
no, well, I think her perspective is going to be a lot different because she wears the hijab.
Oh, she does?
She does,
okay.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that, I think, automatically, like, you can't mistake her for being, Hispanic.
Anything else.
Yeah, so you're like, I know that.
Yeah.
So I think for her, it's much easily more recognizable, and because of that, there's probably different looks that she gets that she notices because of that. I don't know if anyone I don't think anyone
although
actually...
so many people here do. I feel like there's such a huge population of Muslim here that it's just like, whatever, no big deal,
Exactly.
At least I hope that's the case. In my perfect world, nobody notices it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's regular.
It's just people.
It's funny,
by.
I went to the... my friends and I went to the Muslim quote-unquote 101 workshop, which was phenomenal. And I found it really interesting. Actually, two different women brought up the dress and said, why do women have to dress like that? And the men make them dress like that, and that just proves that it's a patriarchal society that's oppressing women.
Right.
And the women in the forum said, we choose to wear this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to pipe up, but I want to say, why are you wearing a cross? It's the same thing. I don't understand why people don't make that connection. It's like you're wearing a cross, person who is Catholic or Protestant or whatever, is the exact same thing.
Right. It is.
So why is it like
why doesn't that
like
register?
Your husband isn't making you wear that cross? Why is that different? You're doing it because it's part of your religion. It's part of your heritage. It's part of what you're proud of. It's part of what you believe. It's part of what you love. It's a part of you.
Exactly.
It doesn't come from someone standing behind. Now, granted, there are certainly places in the Middle East where it's pretty hairy, scary, obviously, and let's hope that it's such an interesting thing. Like Persia, for example,
right?
The women of the Persian era before it became Iran.
Right.
You know, doctors, lawyers, totally
Exactly, yeah.
like had their shit going on. They were badass,
Yeah.
you know. And then this rule came in and changed everything. But again, like you were saying, nobody goes back and studies the history.
Yeah.
So all they see is this monoscope of, oh, right now it's this.
Right.
But there was this huge, vibrant, beautiful culture.
Exactly. And it's
of equality.
Yeah. And
that existed.
Right. And you're absolutely right. I don't think a lot of people look further than, you know, what they've seen with their eyes. Because, like, that would be something that their grandparents, you know, might have been aware of. Well, you know, they didn't have the internet or Facebook back then. Mm-hmm. So maybe not aware of. But, like, that was what you could... That was information that you would easily obtain then. Yeah. Like, now the most easiest to obtain information is just, like, you know, what wrote that headline. It's not going to write headline.
Yeah, but it's not salacious to say that Persia wasn't an equal nation, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's the, like, oh, that sounds like a happy story.
That won't sell any copy.
Exactly.
Yeah, what sells copy is the horrifying stuff that happens now, of course, you know, but, it's so frustrating.
It is. It really is.
So, with your young voice out in the world, do you try and get out and say, hey, you guys kind of got some stuff wrong? Or do you sort of keep to yourself? I mean, what is your role as a Muslim American? You know, do you feel like to have a voice, to be a voice, or do you just kind of stay back and let the chips fall, or where are you with that?
No, I think there's definitely a role that you have to play, and it's not a role that necessarily you even choose from a certain perspective, because like once you realize that it is simply that simple, that people just don't know. It's not that people have, you know, they're just like, they're like, no, we hate everyone across this little line. It's they just do not know history there. They don't know why certain things are perceived as they are. Mm-hmm. And it's literally just a matter of education. Once you realize that, it's a very, very easy role. And this role is literally just to have a conversation with a stranger when they're willing to do it. Yeah. You know, and that role is like the easiest thing you can do, because you're just talking to another human being.
Yeah.
So I try to do that as often as possible.
Do you have opportunity to do that?
I do.
Do people ask much?
Absolutely.
That's great. And I love to hear that.
Yeah. So when I travel for work, I'm not going to, and not every time am I going to an actual like huge like urban area. Yeah. I had a project where I was going to Columbus, Georgia, small town, military town also, for like 6 months, and a huge Trump supporting town. Mm-hmm. Just because I remember like going through their cafeterias. It's a manufacturing plant, so they had like every single day Fox News, and I was like, gosh, these guys are just being fed this stuff, and like they're eating it up.
Yeah, because it sells.
Exactly. Funny enough, it was in the cafeteria. So
well, and the ironic thing is even that Trump pandered to people who quote unquote, you know, hate Muslims or think that all Muslims are terrorists, when in fact he's been doing business with the Middle Eastern world forever.
Yeah, that's and
nobody's ever brought him up, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
They say nothing about his hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so yeah, I can see that that's even to me a disconnect. That even with our leaders, I understand why people vote for whomever they voted for. I could see a clear line toward every...
Right.
I understood why people voted for whom they voted for.
Right.
And why. And it can easily lump people into their little piles, like, oh, this person is this. And I think it's far more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But what frustrated me is that, again... I don't know if this is an American thing just because we're so spoon-fed television culture. Yeah. Or if it's just a human being thing where we're kind of lazy and we only see what's right in front of our face.
I think it's a human being thing.
Yeah, it probably. Yeah. But I was like, man, just follow the money, follow the lines, follow the history. Like, go back a little ways. Right. Don't just be in this microcosm of this election. Go back.
Exactly.
But people don't like to do that. Anyway, sorry. I sort of...
No. I think that was an amazing point, actually, because like the world is a lot older than we think it is. You know, it's not our life.
Yeah, that's right.
It's way beyond our life.
We're a blink.
Exactly.
In the history of the world. Yeah. Not even a blink. We're like barely the eyelash flutter. Yeah. It's for sure. So you went to this small town.
Yeah.
How were you received?
A lot of people were curious. So no, there weren't that many assumptions made. They just didn't know.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, where are you from? And people would, like, operators, and these are just people that do factory jobs,
sure.
Every day.
Yeah.
They were the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
I love that. Salt of the earth.
Yeah. And they were just curious. I actually, like, grew to be friends with a couple of them.
Yeah.
Well,
that's my other frustration, and from the liberal, white, well-off people who think that everyone in middle America or everyone in these small towns like have 3 teeth and are idiots who just... It's like, no, these are industrious human beings. They built our country. They grow your food. They build your buildings. They build your cars.
Yes.
If it weren't for them, we'd still all be living in the forest, basically. So to lump them, it's just this weird thing. Like, they're willing to put everyone over here in their lumps, and then those people are calling these people a certain thing, and then those people are calling...
It's a two-way street.
It makes me crazy.
The same thing is happening across both lanes of this little weird perception
but
highway.
Nobody sees it in themselves.
No,
it's very hard to look in a mirror, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Especially to look in a mirror and then see that you're wrong. I think that's the hardest part. No one wants to be wrong.
Not even necessarily wrong, but just uninformed.
Yeah.
Ignorance. People confuse ignorance and stupidity all the time.
Yeah, they do.
Which is an unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's neat that you found people to be lovely and curious.
Yeah, no, that changed my perspective on... Like,
did you go in with prejudged?
I didn't know what to expect. I was just like, I'm going to go in.
Were you scared?
I wasn't scared, just because I was like, no one's going to be uncivilized.
Weird.
No one's going to hit me with a wrench. Gosh, I don't imagine that happening.
Yeah.
But I was, like, interested to see, like, how will they perceive me? Or, like, how are they going to have weird questions? Where I wonder, are they going to think I'm Mexican or Hispanic? Or are they going to think I'm, like, is this a Middle Eastern dude?
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, they didn't think I was Hispanic.
No.
No, they didn't. I was like, okay. So they knew. But I actually, a couple of those guys, like, I had very, very meaningful, like, conversations with. Like, 45 minutes of just standing there and talking through about politics, religion, like giving them a little history of, like, where I'm from, and then them telling me about where they're from. And, like, at the end of those conversations, like, we would just be like, we're friends now. Like, we understand each other.
Yeah.
Like,
and it all has a ripple effect. Here you are telling me that these people are different than maybe it would be normally perceived, and then they're telling their friends that they met you,
right?
And it wasn't, what they perceived, and so all that ripples outward, and that's all we can really hope for.
Right.
At the end of the day, I went and interviewed. This is the episode 30 was I spoke with Richard Nichols. He's a Grand Dragon in the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh wow!
And I went to his house, and I was nervous. I was really nervous because my preconceived notion of what to expect when I walked in the door was one thing based on media and anything I'd read. I'd never, to my knowledge, ever met anyone in the KKK. Right. I probably have, just didn't know it.
Yeah.
But he was really nice, and that was weird. It was weird to talk to someone who had these beliefs that were so opposite of my own beliefs, but he wasn't a bad human being. He even says, like, I don't go kill people. I don't, he's like, I just believe these certain things. And I didn't agree with those things. Yeah. But he wasn't mean or horrible about it. It's such a weird thing to wrap your brain around.
It is. Yeah.
It's a weird thing to wrap your brain around. Like, I should hate this person that I'm sitting across from that thinks these things, but I don't hate him because
it's still a normal human being.
He's a normal human being that if I had been him, raised up in that family, just like if I had been... See, there was a great thing I read. If we get to, like, the terrorist faction of the crazy, the people that use religion for their own means, and there have been terrorists in every religion. Every single one. And I think it's like, well, we could lump... Man, the Catholics did a number on history. The Protestants did a number on history. In way more numbers, first of all. Yeah. I mean... that's historical fact.
Right, it is.
That's not a make-believe thing. That's historical fact. But, I kind of lost... so I was reading this article, and former, I think it was a Navy SEAL, was having a conversation. It was a woman, or is still a woman. She was interrogating someone that they had captured, and... It was really interesting. She said that they said, "Have you seen these movies? Independence Day. They know American culture." And she's like, "Of course." And he said, "Well, you know how, the the tiny group is fighting the big regime of the aliens, and the tiny, the world is trying to fight against this big. And he said, that's how we feel. Which is interesting because, of course, now people that blow up small children and all that, this is not an acceptable behavior in humanity, period, end of story. Exactly. And for me personally, I feel like they, of course, use this religion and they skewer it, and it has nothing to do. I've read the Quran. There's nothing in there that says anything about that. You know? And you can bastardize any religious tome to suit your fanatical belief system, not yours, the royal.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was really fascinating. So and I thought in that moment, if I was raised up to believe the things that person believes, just like when I was sitting in front of Richard, the KKK guy, if I'd been raised in his family, maybe I would think that all black people are this way, or all Asians are this way, or all Jews are this way, But you take them out of that, and then you've got a whole different situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that stuff blows my mind. This is what keeps me up at night. Seriously, this is why I have insomnia, because I think about this stuff all the time.
No, those are the real thoughts to have, though. You know, those are the real questions. There's a huge psychology behind it. How that is I think that's like a huge philosophical question. Would you be a different person depending on your, is your environment shaping you, or that argument? Yeah,
absolutely. Now, granted, there are people that are raised up. Let's just to really go out there. Let's pick child molester, right?
Okay, yeah.
Child molester has a child and molests that child, and then that child grows up. They could, more than likely, they will head down the path of also being a molester, right? But they also have that chance to be like, nope, cycle stops here. And I know people like this that were abused as children who were like, the cycle stops here. Yeah. So again, environment, nurture, nature, genetic, all this stuff all rubbled up and together, and you still, as you're coming up, do you have a choice? So look at the kids in the Congo that are completely brainwashed into killing their own family.
Exactly.
These are like little kids are like, mommy, daddy, and then death. It's so weird.
Yeah, that's not something I personally have my brain completely wrapped around.
No, it's an impossibility to wrap your brain around it.
It's just going back to the terrorist analogy, sometimes I've tried to put myself in that mindset, why in the world would in that what would logically make sense, or what would I have to be told for to be logically make sense that yes, this is the right way to do it. Yes, the entire world is against all Muslims in general, and I am the cavalry coming in to save them. Yeah. And they all need to join me. Blah blah blah. Yeah. I'm there's just no logical stream, and which is why I always think there are a couple of interesting articles that I read, about people who are ex-terrorists or they've studied the terrorists so often that they go into actual psychoanalysis of why in the world does a specific stereotype or a specific personality type or life experience lead people down that pathway. And that's been the side that I've been looking at more. That seems to be more sensical in understanding it. If you have a certain experience in life that either creates a certain aggressiveness within you, or just within you and the world, and you find an outlet for it, and then not only the outlet, but the outlet is basically this is your path to eternal glory, right? This is your path to heaven, and you're well, this is great. I get everything I want from this path.
Yeah. Which is the argument the Catholics used in the Middle Ages, by the way.
Yeah. Wait, really? The exact same argument?
Well, basically, if you don't believe what we believe, you're not going to heaven and be glorified by God. I mean, that was the Protestants used the same argument. Middle Ages were gnarly. I wouldn't want to have been around then.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, gnarly. Yeah, it is fascinating. And the funny thing, the argument that I have with some of my friends, and by argument I mean conversation, that I have with my friends and I have some friends who are distrusting of anything that isn't quote unquote vanilla, regular, white.
Yeah.
And the thing I often say is, if you decide to dislike a religion, a Muslim, or a person, based on what these handful of people do, you're playing into what those people are counting on.
Right.
They're hoping that you there is nothing more that somebody who has bastardized a religion to suit themselves, whatever religion it
Right,
is.
right.
There's nothing that they want more than to make everyone fear them to the extent that they fear everyone lumped in with them, so that it feeds their propagandist machine. Hitler was a genius at that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
And it surprises me that people don't, again, draw those parallels. But
I think that's where the fear kicks in, right? They're like, they don't know. They're like, oh, that neighbor that just moved in, his wife is completely covered. He's got this beard, and he wears this weird dress. I kind of like it, but it's weird.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, is he one of the good guys or is he one of the bad guys?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
instead of taking over a cookie and saying, hey, good to meet you. Are you one of the good guys or one of the bad guys? And just asking.
Asking.
Why not?
Yeah. Honestly, I think more people would be comfortable with that
I do
than
too.
just sitting
Then the
there.
assumption.
Yeah, like, oh, he's probably bad. Or, playing it safe. Like, from that neighbor that's, that had a Muslim family move in next door to them. From their perspective, like, assuming that they're the bad guy is, like, smarter for them. Because they're like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to take the risk. What if I go over there, give him a cookie and...
I think that started in the 50s.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think. Because it used to be that neighbors were quite neighborly. And then slowly but surely through the 50s and 60s, I think neighbors became this other, regardless of what they were. Even if your neighbor was white and you were white or whatever. I think it's like fences make good neighbors. Right? That started back then.
That's
a lot of distrust came after the wars.
Yeah.
I went to a good high school back in Seattle, and it was not until college that I knew about the Japanese internment camps. They never taught that to us in high school.
I did not know that until the end of college.
Yeah, is that not insane?
That is incredibly insane.
I find it abhorrent, first of all, that they left that out of my history classes.
Yeah.
That's...
Why would you leave that out, right?
Yeah. Japanese Americans, in some cases, second generation Americans, and put them in basically not camps like Auschwitz, but camps. Right. They rounded them up and stuck.
Isolated an entire people
based on their heritage. Yeah. And when I found that out, I think I may have even cried. I was so distraught over that we did that. But then, now as an adult, I look back and I think, well, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
And that's horrifying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's so crazy.
Exactly. And especially since that's like, I mean, it's not that recent, but still that's recent. That's not crazy long ago.
It's not that crazy long ago.
That's something that, like, worries me, like, personally, at a level. Like, could this happen again?
Sure, because that was a rhetoric that fueled an election.
Exactly.
So, let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
What did you... I laugh. I shouldn't laugh, but it's like, it seems so insane to me. But I know for a lot of people, it was a rhetoric they wanted to hear. Which, again, for me, I'm like, wait, what? And all I want to say is go Google all the inventions by Muslims. Like, in the history of the world... If you really want to hate a culture, then basically stop living your life.
Yeah,
Stop going to the doctor. Don't go get an X-ray.
Right.
Don't put glass windows in your house.
Stop studying algebra.
Stop studying algebra. Stop playing the guitar. Yeah. You just name something.
Right.
And, it's from, Egypt or, Persia or, whatever.
Exactly.
It's not from around here.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes me crazy. But anyway, so this election, the rhetoric was certainly at DEFCON 10 for the anti-Muslim rhetoric.
Yeah.
So here you are, just living your freaking life, and you're like, what's happening? What's happening? So I know that some of my friends who are Muslim were scared.
Yeah.
They were scared.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that is a common emotion among a good part of the community. Not everyone, but definitely a good part of the community.
Yeah,
that's something that they're like anxious. They're not like, I'm so scared that I need to, like, we're moving back, or like we're going to England or something.
Worse,
right?
Not
Canada.
Yeah.
But they're still definitely, like, very anxious. So, like, we need to actually think about what's going on and, like, be active and, like, figure out and be on top of the ball as far as, like, talking to our neighbors, talking to people, which is ironically, I think a little like good thing that's come out of that.
Absolutely.
It's united a lot of people.
Sure.
Like a lot of religious scholars in the U.S., like born in the U.S., raised, educated in the U.S., still like Muslim scholars, like those people exist. Yeah. A lot of people like even in the Muslim community. Imams that are like they are American. They're not people who are from anywhere else.
Sure.
Like even them, like they've specifically put out the message. Actually, just this Friday at the Legislative Plaza, we had our Friday prayers, and the imam there, like, is actually a famous scholar from the U.S., Yasser Qadhi. He specifically talked about like, like as being a Muslim, like your first 4 things that you need to focus on. The first 3 actually don't involve any rituals. The first 3 are literally, are you being a good human being to other human beings? And
the golden rule.
Yes, exactly. And specifically, which I thought he hit the nail on the head there, was
he's so violent.
Huh?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That poor nail.
That poor nail. But specifically, he's saying, like not just being good to like other Muslims or other like emphasizing that you need to be good to any human being that you come in contact with. And I was like, that's a great point. Because that's something that within the community sometimes, like immigrants, they forget, because they're always like, being an immigrant's hard, on its own. So they always want to help other immigrants first, because they're like, I know exactly what you went through and I can help you out here. But like your neighbor has the exact same, your non-immigrant neighbor has the exact same day-to-day struggles as you do.
Sure.
And like he brought that to light in a very, very elegant way. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that is what we need to focus on. And I honestly think a part of his like formulating that talk came from like the recent election. Yeah. Him understanding that we need to be involved in every aspect of society that we can, in a positive way.
Yeah, that's why I get frustrated when I hear people say, "Oh, they shouldn't teach other cultures in school. It should just be." And I think, first of all, they barely covered World War II and the German situation, and the Nazi Germany situation. I'm not going to lump all Germans into that. The Nazi Germany situation. Barely learned, again, didn't even know about internment camps. But the only way to become a human being is to understand human beings. And so they should be teaching all these other cultures. How do you grow as a being? How do you know yourself if not through others? Yeah. It makes perfect sense, but again, fear steps in. I loved going to the mosque and doing that Muslim 101. It was so great. And what really made me happy was to see it was standing room only.
Did you go to the one in November?
I think it was November.
Yeah,
it was
packed. And by the way,
fantastic. Best hummus I've ever had in my entire life. If I had a bigger bag, that bowl would have been going home with me. It was delicious.
Yeah.
I was so tickled to see how many people were there. Yeah,
I was very, very happy that it was like that. Like we'd set up like all the chairs, and like a part of like everyone in their head was like, oh, what if we only get like 50 people? But
it was packed.
No, it was absolutely packed, and that was Rashid. He's the president of the ICN where it was.
He's lovely.
Yeah, he is great. He's fantastic. And he was just like, no, there's going to be so many people. I've reached out to everyone, and he was right. There was just like, you couldn't actually see the speaker for a lot of people. They had to stand in other rooms. That's right.
And I was glad too that, again, it's that thing is, if you already know this stuff, it's great that you're going just in solidarity and all that. But I was glad to see there were people there that didn't know,
right? That
were questioning, that had some pretty. There were a couple people that some of their questions were like, oh my gosh, that's. But the lovely thing was that the responses from the panels were so open and like, okay, that's a good question.
Right.
And I'm thinking, that's a really racist question, in my mind. But it was good because that's the only way to get to the other side.
Right.
Yeah. It's the only way.
I was actually like smiling when they asked like those. I remember there was one about like the hijab question.
Yeah, the hijab. Yeah, that same lady asked that same question twice, but she worded it differently. I'm like, she wearing a cross. I really want to say something.
Yeah, no, I was glad she asked it only because like answering in front of 400 people, you have 400 witnesses to that answer. Yeah. Like that. How else do you answer that question to such a huge audience?
Yeah.
And live. Like if she had follow up questions, she could do it now. So I was glad.
Yeah. And again, it's like, people wear yarmulkes when they go to temple. A lot of little old church ladies wear hats because they think it's appropriate.
Right.
There's People
nuns?
cover
Yeah.
nuns is a great example.
Yeah.
Nuns might as well. I mean, it's the same.
It's the exact same. Yeah,
it's the exact same thing. Yeah, parallels. So I'm assuming you've read the Quran.
Yeah.
Tell me something in the Quran. What's like a favorite part? Like, what's a favorite passage or something that sticks with you?
Oh, that favorite passage?
Simplify. I have a couple copies if you need one.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm not going to quote it directly.
I haven't read it in a really long time, so I read it in college. But
that's awesome. Yeah. I'm actually like really glad that you read it in college.
Oh, yeah, I read that in the Bhagavad-gita.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah. The only way to know yourself is to know others.
Yeah, that's a good quote. Yeah,
it's probably not mine. I stole it from Gandhi or something.
You can do the Michael Squat quote. You know. No, my favorite is probably actually I think the first word that was revealed. It's like it's Iqra. It's to read. You know, and like that literally to me. On so many different, and probably because it's one word and you can kind of take it in however you want, right? It hits me very personally because it's not driven like it's literally read, but like seek knowledge for the sake of knowledge, like for the sake of knowledge, not specifically religious knowledge, not specifically you need to be a mathematician, you need to be like doctor engineer example. It's literally learn, you know, and to me, and that was just like. That is important.
Yes.
That is important no matter what religion you are, where you grew up, where you're born.
Yes.
Like you are going to be a better human being if you simply just know more. You know, and know more about people, know more about cultures, know more about your neighbor, know more about your religion.
Yeah.
And that's probably actually my favorite part. Like, and the weird thing is actually, so the Quran it's not in order. Like I don't know if you remember, but it's not in order of like the actual compilation of the book. You know, so like this is actually comes like towards after the 50% mark when you're going through the book, which to me adds like so much, which to me is like, I need to learn why, you know? Like, so it's weird structures of the book itself, and that to me are like, this is not how I would write a book if I was writing a book. And I'm like, well, I guess I would not be writing this book because this is not, you know, believed to be from a human. But yeah, that generally has been like my whole like philosophy of like that phrase in that beginning. It's driven me actually to learn a lot, like as of recently, to learn more about different things that I personally, like my culture, like specifically, there's so many things I don't know about being Pakistani. I mean, I'm Pakistani, I've been to Pakistan a million times.
Yeah, okay.
I was born there, I spent a good time of my life there, but that doesn't mean I actually know everything. I didn't spend my college years there,
right.
I worked there. And understand people, like, you know, understand like the culture that my parents grew up in.
Which is probably worlds apart from your generation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, completely different.
Yeah.
And that's actually been something that I've been focusing on for like the past couple of months. Like that literally has been like getting to know yourself, like as you were just saying, you know, like you have to learn where you're from, why you understand the language that you do, why you know, why when someone speaks to you in that specific language, like it's different. You don't know why, you don't know how, but it's just different. Like it's a different feeling when someone's talking to you in your native language than your second, third.
It vibrates differently.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just like those subtleties. You're like, that's just weird. Like how do you explore that?
When you dream, what language do you dream in? Probably
American?
Yeah, English?
yeah, English. Mostly English.
American's not a language.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
There's like 60 languages here at this point.
Yeah, no, I've had both. Like it's been in English and also in Urdu. That's the language of Pakistan.
Right. Do you ever have you ever had a what do you call it? Like a crisis of faith at all ever in your young life?
Like religious or just like general? Yeah, absolutely. That's been, I think every human being goes through that at some point. Any like
or
actively thinking, any actively thinking human being goes through that, and I think that's. Can
you speak to it?
Yeah, sure. Like I would say, junior year of college was probably not a high point in my like religion, like just because I felt like it was like, okay, this is my religion, it's in the backseat, you know.
Were you being active in it at that time?
Yeah, you go through the motions.
Oh, okay.
You go through the rituals that you need to. So all your prayers done in Arabic.
Yeah.
When you're praying, I don't speak Arabic. I can read Arabic and I can pronounce things in Arabic just fine.
And you know what they mean
within
the tone.
Within the tone, I know their context of what I'm saying. But if I was to investigate, be like, hey, let's do a little reading of this surah of the Quran or this ayah, and let's talk through it. What does that actually mean? What's the context of it? I would not be able to sit down and do that. And to me, I'm I'm following a religion that I believe. I have this belief that I believe it, and I can't explain why. I just can't.
It's called faith.
Yeah, that for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But that deserves some investigation. You spend 4 years, and I always use the analogy of you spend 4 years in college studying, as an engineer, studying your butt off, for doing these 8-hour homework assignments, getting them wrong, doing 4 hours more. And I'm like, when do you give time to learning the religion that you practice every day?
Yeah. That's good. I think a lot of people don't have that moment.
Yeah. And I think it's a striking moment when you have it, because you've as a Pakistani, I think you're that's the traditional Pakistani role. You got to get a job, that's the pressure that you have from I don't know, Pakistani society, or your society in general, where you got to get a job, you got to get your thing, your ducks lined in a row.
Gotta get married.
Exactly, and you have to take care of your religion aspect too. But the religion aspect is always from a top very high level. You need to learn how to read Arabic. You need to read the Quran. You need to learn how to pray. All the things that you need to, all the rituals that the 4 points that he talked about in school. The fourth point, the first 3 are kind of, you'll learn as you go along. There's no emphasis on that.
Yeah.
And I think that it vibrates among various cultures within Islam. It doesn't have to be Pakistani. It's wherever you grow up in, sometimes that isn't, for whatever reason, isn't as strongly stressed.
The knowing what it all means.
No, the studying what it all means in depth.
Okay.
Just because that part takes a lot of effort. And a lot of, I don't think a lot of people know how to do it, because that's a long road to go down. You're talking about learning a new language.
Yeah.
At that point.
So in your junior year, did you say, "Oh, I guess
it's
time to figure this stuff out," or what?
Well, yeah, I was still stressed out about finding a job when I graduated. I realized that this deserves a very elevated sense of priority.
Yeah.
So it became from backseat to front seat in the car. And every now and then I'm okay, I dedicate some time to actually sit down and investigate. And you learn things from just putting time. It doesn't have to be academic time. You're not sitting there reading through a textbook, analyzing Arabic script. It could just start with knowing what you already know and confirming its meaning and understanding its context. So that's where I started. It's okay, the surahs that we read when we pray,
yes.
When were they revealed? What's the context of the scenario of the Prophet's life when that was revealed? Why was that important to him? Why was it important that he was revealed this verse at this time in his life? What was going on? That stuff, to me now is just oh, that's gold. Understanding that is whoa, you're understanding a completely different layer to the religion. It gives it more than just superficial meaning. It's this is why this is as it is.
That's why it's so exciting to listen to biblical scholars. I feel if you come from a Judeo-Christian background, to listen to people who truly understand all the tribes, understand the Aramaic and the Hebrew and the ancient Greek and all, and all this stuff. It's the same thing. It's you get into the meta.
Yeah.
Once you get into the meta, your mind just starts exploding.
Yeah.
And it actually, like you said, it elevates it to this beautiful place that, well, suddenly it makes sense. I think it takes the religion out of it.
You're right, yeah.
I think it takes the religion out of it, and suddenly you truly become one with
Yeah,
everything.
I think you
not
worded
to
that
sound
perfectly.
like a crazy hippie, but I think that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. That's very well worded. It takes out the stigma of this is your religion, this is what you do. Like, this is, you know, it kind of elevates you to that where this is life.
Yeah.
This is worth understanding.
Yeah.
This is why I do what I do.
Where you get to the depth of it, where it, again, to use the word vibration, where it vibrates to your core.
Yeah.
And I think that when you get to that spot, that's when you start to weep.
Yeah.
You know, that's when, you know, you see on TV, like, the people cry. It's like, I get that. I get that when they get to that place.
Right.
Where it's just so pure.
Yeah, it's
like the raspberry filling in the cake. You get through all the crap, like, forget all this
and then
stuff,
you
you
get
do
the
that
good
good
stuff. Yeah, exactly.
That's the best part.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. That is when you understand and your, like, emotions really take over. Like, you would really understand. You know, you're like, oh, that says not to kill. That says to love thy neighbor. That says to respect your mother. You know, like at that deep level of understanding, you realize, oh, why do I need to respect my mother?
Sure.
You know?
Well, it's like that thing where they tell you as a new parent. I'm not a parent, so I'm just speaking in concepts, but when they say, instead of saying to a kid, don't do that, it's far more helpful to the child to say, the reason why you shouldn't do this is because it has these ramifications, or it's because this is the thing. Like, don't just say no, explain.
Right.
You know, and I think that's true with anyone. It's true with with bosses.
Yeah.
If your boss comes to you like, oh, you know, do it this way. The human nature is like, okay, well, let's get a little deeper than that.
Exactly.
But parents, of course, are like, don't ask why, just do it.
Oh my god, yeah, life story with that.
Yeah, don't just that. But and then again, if you look at a deity as a parent, which is pretty much what they are, right? That again, we're not given the gift of wisdom, and we're not given the gift of free will for nothing. Yeah. We're given those gifts so that we do say, why is this?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, that's what makes a parent most proud. When you graduate with your degree and you're like, look, I learned some stuff, you know? And the parents go, oh, that's great. Pat, pat, pat. You know, I think it's kind of the same thing. I don't know. I'm going off on some bizarro tangent.
No, I think that makes sense. It is kind of the same thing.
So what did you learn about yourself during that journey?
I think I'm still going through it.
Sure.
I think I learned more about the people around me through that. In addition to, like, you know, myself, I think I realized there's a lot that I need to learn, a lot more that I need to learn that I initially thought, and that it's going to take a long time.
A lifetime, maybe more than one lifetime.
Yeah, no, seriously, I think you could study any religion for multiple lifetimes.
I agree.
And, you know, only be elevated in your satisfaction of it.
Yeah.
In your true understanding of. And the richness of your conversations with other people that have that same perspective. But honestly, I learned, I would say, gratitude. That was like the easiest thing, and I think that came from also being an immigrant to the country, to America. I mean, I feel pretty American now, but like now when I look back, like in your life, you realize there's this famous saying or this famous hadith, which is a quote from the Prophet. That, like, when asked, like, whether your dad or your mom is greater for your respect, it was basically like, you know, pick your favorite, right? So his reply was your mom, actually 3 times prior to going to your dad. And I'm like, damn, that sucks. That's gonna suck for me. I'm like 4th in line whenever I have a family, right? But that's something that over time, like, to me has come to, like, understanding of why. And that's not to be like to say that the scale is heavier on like your mom's side than your dad's side, right? It's just a different appreciation.
Yeah.
To me,
because she birthed you.
Exactly.
She is the goddess.
Exactly.
You know, or the bearer of all things.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's a different relationship between any human being and their mother. Just that relationship's different than your relationship with your father. They're both like incredibly important and value enriched.
Yeah.
But it's just different. Like, your mom's not going to stop caring about you, even when you're like 50. You know?
Yeah. Well, again, it depends on the parental relationship.
Yeah.
In a perfect world.
In a perfect world. In an ideal scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is so fascinating.
Yeah.
So, do you have pressure to get married and have children, all that from your family?
A little bit, but not. I wouldn't say crazy amounts.
Okay. Because I know that is certainly from the documentaries I've seen. It's my understanding that they want to get those men in the family married off. Like,
yeah, no, I think
too sweet.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's like, I think that's a priority, like along the checklist line of your kids. You know, like, do they get to good school? They get an education? Blah blah blah. Are they like, are they independent? Yeah. Then they're like, are they married yet?
Yeah. And again, with that, the concept that white bread America looks and thinks, oh well, they're just trying to marry everybody off. I'm like, name one little white girl who hasn't been told since the day she came out about her she's gonna get married to this guy and she's gonna find the person. You know, like, we all get fed that fairy tale. I don't care what background you come from.
Right. That's a human culture thing.
Human culture.
Yeah. That's
absolutely
among anywhere you go.
All right. Do you have a least favorite passage in the Quran?
Least favorite?
Yeah.
I'm sure I could. No, honestly, no.
There's nothing that's straight, because I could think of lots of things in the Bible that rub me the wrong way.
Yeah, well, okay. I think there's things that, like, you could specifically look out that potentially out of context, that you know, that, like, that's weird. Why is it? There hasn't been. I will say there's been things that I've read, and upon reading, I'd be like, this is intriguing. Why is this here? Or like, why like I don't know, like, if you were to find a passage, I'm not going to be able to quote exactly where it is, but let's say a passage that says, I don't know, stoning or something like that, or a punishment of some kind.
Yeah, sure. We get that in all the religious books.
Exactly. Yeah. Right? Like, if you were to go find it and be like, well, why does it say this? Like, you know, in other places it says if you kill one human being, you've killed all of humanity. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. That's in the Quran, by the way.
Yeah. No.
I love. That's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. And that specifically, I haven't found anything where if I haven't investigated even the slightest, I haven't found, or that I have lacked to find explanation of why it's there, of like deeper understanding of, like, the cultural aspects that existed in society when that was revealed, which is what
super important. That's what I was saying. It's like, you have to dig.
Exactly.
You have to be an archaeologist when you read a religious text.
Right, you do.
Yeah.
They're not shallow holes either. You got to dig deep. Yeah.
Man.
The raspberries are very, very
they're way down there.
Way down there. Yeah. You have So there hasn't been anything that I'd say has been like, okay, I just don't like that part. Or you know, I think, I'm sure as I continue reading in depth, and like with actual meaning and like true understanding of it, I'm gonna find things that I'm gonna be like, that's weird. This is gonna go on my list of investigate.
Do you talk to your parents about it, or do you have a they're good about?
Yeah, they're very open to having the conversations. I mean,
assuming they're devout.
Yeah, definitely devout. Yeah, but they're not. I wouldn't say they're like scholar level. Like, I think that's where the imam at the ICN comes in. You know, like, or if I have a question, like, I do not have any problem going to them and being like, "Yo, explain this."
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and I think that's been like a mind shift, me personally, after starting exploration. Like, prior to really exploring the religion itself, you'd kind of come across something weird, or you hear something even in the news, you're like, oh, it says in the Quran that this, blah, 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 right? And you're like, does it really? And you're like, oh, crap. And then you're like, oh, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to ignore it. Like, it says it in there, but I'm sure it's out of context, and I'll let everyone else take care of it, you know? You just kind of ignore the hard stuff, and you just stick to the goody stuff. You're like, oh, look how warm and fuzzy and nice it is. That's been something I realized, that the religion is not, like, the religion is meant for study. It's not meant for ignoring things that you don't like. You're not supposed to take what you like and leave everything else.
Just like humanity.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, exactly like humanity. Yeah. You're supposed to figure out...
Metaphors abound around here.
Yeah. You're supposed to explore it. You're supposed to ask the question of why. You're supposed to learn. So, and that to me was probably like the biggest mind change. And that happened, I think, even before, like junior year in college. I think that was a slow ticking point to that led me. You're like, I need to ask questions.
Yeah.
It's not a thing of, don't ask questions, go with it. It's ask questions, figure out why something is as it is.
Is it just you and your sister, or do you have other siblings?
No, just us.
Okay. Yeah. Does she have the thirst for that knowledge too?
She does.
That's
she
great.
Definitely does. She doesn't have time, unfortunately.
She's a doctor. She's gonna be a doctor.
Exactly.
She's gonna be a doctor.
Yeah, I think she has a test on Monday, so fingers crossed, praying for her.
Well, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, she definitely does. We have very interesting conversations on these same topics, and I think that's been awesome, having a sibling that you can talk to about this stuff.
Especially a female sibling.
Yes.
That you're a male. I mean, and if you were a female, I'd say especially a male sibling,
right?
Because like anything, you're coming to it from such different perspectives, by nature of being a different sex.
Right.
So I think that's really good that you have each other to talk to about that.
It definitely is, yeah.
And sometimes parents, as much as they try, it's not as good.
Yeah, you know? No, I agree. I agree.
So it's good to go to your religious scholars and say, what does this mean?
Right.
Because they don't have that, what's the word? They're not biased toward the conversation because they're trying to instill some sort of something in you.
Right.
They just want you to get the knowledge, hopefully.
Yeah. Ideally.
Yeah. God willing. Yeah. Or Allah.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah. Actually, I would say after some study, initial, that exploration period, right? Like coming to knowing yourself and understanding where you fit and how what's important to you, what's really important to you. I actually became more comfortable, as an adolescent compared to as an adolescent. As an adult, I feel more comfortable going to your mom
parents?
Or dad. Yeah, and
that's the beauty of being
let's
a
talk
grown-up.
about this.
Yay! It's the best.
Yeah, it is incredibly rewarding.
Yes,
actually. Yeah,
I agree. But as a youngster, I think it's not the same. Now, my father and I have such cool conversations that we wouldn't have had 10 years ago. There's no way,
Yeah,
so
that's a weird life thing. I think once you get out, once you go, I don't know what the point is. What time period? I think it's different for everyone, probably.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but that it has to be a huge flag has to be planted in time right there. Be yes, now you have this interesting window,
and it changes. It ebbs and flows too. The conversations you have with your parents now, they're gonna turn into something completely different in another 10 years. So it's just gonna keep. As they get older and as you get older. What do you think is where we are right now in the United States and maybe even in the world and where we're heading? Are you pretty confident? Are you feeling
I feel pretty confident.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, not to say that I'm not worried, not to say that I'm not anxious, but I'm still overall overarching still I think I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
That might just be me and young and everything's gonna be fine,
Are your parents concerned? More
they are too, but not. I think me being less concerned.
The dog is the
right. Yeah, it's absolutely.
He's looking at you like,
yeah, he is.
He's
hey, yeah. I just want to pet you.
He's had a traumatic. I'm fostering a dog right now for those of you listening, and he's a little skittish, but. He's come a long way in 2 days.
That was surprising.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah, he's a sweet dog. Anyway,
yeah, I was there. I think me being less concerned or less or not being oh my god, we need to sell the house. We need to move to I don't know.
Well, especially because you're immigrants, right? So you're on the high priority of get the hell out lists or whatever. Right.
No, I'm not.
That's disconcerting to
me. It is. But I don't
I
think...
can worry for both of us.
Yeah, there we go.
But I don't want to be fearful either, because I think it breeds more fear.
Yeah. I think... I can't imagine, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. Literally, a list of Muslim immigrants just being shipped off. Just because I think there's so many Muslim immigrants that are a vital part of society.
I agree. And I think now that... And I'd like to... history repeats itself. So then I look again to the Japanese being rounded up. And I think, is it possible for that to happen again? But then I think at that time period, maybe there wasn't the voice. There certainly wasn't the internet.
Right.
Right? There wasn't this... That is one good thing about this global screaming.
Yeah.
Is that I don't know that anyone that has any understanding of civil liberty would allow that to happen. I hope.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I mean, no, I'm with you on that hope. I would hope that too. I hope that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people have to have each other's backs.
Yeah.
On a national scale, global scale.
Yeah.
And the fact that Like, there's Syrian refugees in Nashville.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that the fact that in other places in the U.S. that is happening, like, tells me that we do have each other's back to a certain degree.
Yeah.
You know? Not all of them are here. But, not that would be ideal. But,
yeah.
I think we do have that. But I think it's... You only grow stronger when you're stressed, when you're pressured, you know?
Like a diamond.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah.
The carbon gets more beautiful.
Exactly. There's also
under pressure.
Yeah. Another analogy. Just we should have a counter. There's a rabbi that gave of a lobster, and its shell. It said like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that was beautiful. Like that was such a great tidbit. But
now everyone's like, lobster,
What's rabbi. What is he doing?
What's going on?
So the lobster grows. The shell doesn't grow with it. So every time a lobster is under pressure from its shell because it's outgrown it, it has to crawl into a safe spot, away from predators, outgrow that shell, regenerate a new one, and come out. Lobster 2.0. And then do that every time it gets too big for its shell. I don't know when they stop growing, if they even do. I don't know.
They probably get eaten. But that's another story.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that it's the same thing for society, right?
Yeah.
Like you go through tough times, or like groups in society, or just people in general. You go through the people that you have relationships with through time, and when those relationships are tested and stressed, the ones that survive are the ones that last.
Right.
And they grow more fruitful and stronger.
Right.
So I think it's an opportunity of that. Now, that being said, I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think it's going to be, like if there is a whole commotion to round up a whole bunch of Muslims and ship them off, then I think that's not going to be an easy way. Yes, we're growing and strengthening our relationship together. Look how happy it is. That's going to be a sad effort.
Yeah. Horrifying.
Yeah.
Would be the word I would use, but yeah.
Yeah. That'd be awful. But that it wouldn't be, that would cause, I think, people to grow. So I tend to try to think in which I think helps me be sane.
Yeah.
Over long periods of time. So
I think we're going through a huge growth spurt right now, which is wonderful. Yeah. And again, long live the lobster, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. Long live Lobster 2.0.
Yeah.
Get your shell.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what's going to happen if anything like that does occur.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed it doesn't.
Let's hope not.
Yeah. But
I really appreciate you coming and
talking
to me. This has been great.
Yeah, it has. Great conversation.
Yeah.